Welcome to this edition of the Weekly Dose, Challenge Your Perspective. This is Patrick Dare in Washington, D.C. In the past 1 week, I've been torn between two topics. The first being the question of, do politicians go into politics or go into leadership, seek a vote, primarily to go and serve the people they represent, or do they serve their own self-interest? The other was, why does it seem that every 5 years, Kenyans go to the poll, Kenyans go into that voting booth because they've been convinced that this coalition or the other is the better for the country moving forward. And as I was thinking about it, I thought, these are two distinct topics that maybe I should tackle in two different episodes. But it dawned on me that really they're not mutually exclusive. They feed on each other. The politicians need for their own self-interest, and therefore stoke those very emotional feelings from their voters to align with them. Now, the topic of self-destruction or self-defeating behavior has been long an interesting topic to psychologists. Why do human beings act in ways or have behaviors that are detrimental to them, that are self-destructing? Smokers continue to smoke while they know very well that smoking is bad for their health, that it causes cancer. Why do we procrastinate in doing things that we know we're supposed to do, and yet we don't do them in time? We've been to the doctors, we know we are sick, the doctor prescribes medication, but we don't take it. We're not compliant, and yet we know that the medication is supposed to help us. Why do people drive carelessly and they know that that increases their chance of being in an accident and causing them harm or even death? Every 5 years, Kenyans seem to align themselves to politicians who come and talk about the very emotional things to the voters that make the voters totally disregard what their self-interest is. And to the politicians, it serves their self-interest. We saw here in the US during the past campaign where a presidential candidate talked about the 47% being mulches. And yet, among the 47%, there was a large number of them that voted for this very same person, whose policies, if elected, would have been detrimental to their own being. Talking about cutting welfare, cutting Medicaid, cutting those programs that the very same 47% depend on. In Kenya, we've seen the election, or so far, which is being contested, a president-elect or declared the winner, whose running mate and him are being accused at the International Criminal Court for heinous crimes against humanity. The people totally neglected the issues at hand that brought Kenya almost to its knees. The issue of land, which in my opinion is the biggest issue that caused that chaos, because the stolen election was probably just a catalyst. But the long-standing difference between the Kalenjin and the Kikuyu has been land issues. And now these two politicians, because they are being accused, and that is the most common factor with them, they're being accused at the ICC of being able to turn around and say, we are your sons, and if we are suffering, you'll be suffering, and therefore be with us, vote for us. And people that have voted that way have totally neglected the very same reason why they've been at war. Why do we do that? As voters, we must ask ourselves fundamental questions as to whose benefit is being served by the type of campaigns that our politicians do. We've just seen that the new incoming MPs are already complaining about their salaries, that the 532,000 shillings a month is too little, really. And yet there are people, there are Kenyans who suffer, who go without food, who go without shelter. The economy is bad, commodity prices are high. And these politicians will have the courage to dare say that their salaries are too little for them to survive on, while an average Kenyan survives on $1 a day. We must have a soul-searching Kenyans. We are hoping that, however the outcome of the petition, that we can start thinking about what is best for the whole country and not what is best for these politicians who come up and form coalitions because they're being driven primarily by their self-interest. This is Patrick Dale, bringing you your weekly dose. I'm challenging you to challenge your perspective. Thank you.